Welcome to Hunters of the Kaladron Valley video tutorial. I am the Huntress, one of the heroes you can play during the game.
And I am the Hunter, the other hero you can play. Both of us are the same except for the artwork, but only one of us is used at a time. Now, while I go to take care of some dangerous monsters, I will leave you in good hands.
Farewell, good sir. Now let us continue. Hunters of the Kaladron Valley is a medieval fantasy solo card game. The main strategy involves managing your reputation points and choosing when to spend actions to match either a success or avoid adventure card requirement. The first edition comes with 6 different quests to select from. Each quest has 3 episodes and a starting modifier. A quest must be completed within a certain number of days. The days are tracked using the other quest cards turned face down and stacked under the active quest. The player decides how difficult a quest will be by setting the maximum number of days. The normal difficulty level is 5 days and is represented by the active quest plus 4 other quest cards. Each episode has different goals. The player wins the game by achieving the goals for all 3 episodes within the predetermined number of days. A hero will start off with episode 1 at level 1. Hero level determines the number of treasures you can carry as well as the maximum value of successful endurance, trap or puzzle obstacles you can save with the hero, to apply towards another avoid requirement, but more on that later. During episode 1, the player will only shuffle and play against adventure cards with E1 in the corner. If all of the goals are reached for the first episode, 1 face-down quest card is removed to represent the passing of a day, and the hero will advance to level 2. Then, the player can begin the second episode. During episode 2, the player will shuffle together adventure cards with E1 in the corner and cards that have E2. If all of the goals are reached for the second episode, 1 face-down quest card is removed to represent the passing of a day, and the hero will advance to level 3. Then, the player can begin the third episode. During episode 3, the player will shuffle together all adventure cards with E1, E2, and E3. If you complete episode 3 goals, then you win the game. If an episode fails, however, 1 face-down quest is still removed to represent a lost day, and the player must select a cost which might include the loss of treasure, the loss of goals achieved so far, or the reduction of the current hero level. From here, the player must continue to try the current episode until it is successful or it fails again. If too many days are lost from failed episodes and there is not enough to finish the quest, the game is over. To begin the game, select a hero and a quest. For this tutorial, we will be using the Huntress hero and quest number 1, Slay the Giant. Following the instructions on page 11 of the PDF rules that are available for download from the Game Crafter website, and also outlined on the rule reference cards, we will choose how difficult our game will be by setting the maximum number of days to complete the quest. For this tutorial, we will use the normal difficulty of 5 days. Place 4 quest cards face down, and our selected quest number 1 face up on top of the other cards. Then we will place the hero level 1 on top of the other hero level cards. Next, we will place the episode 1 starting modifier face up and shuffle the other modifier cards. For quest number 1, the starting modifier is Goblin Patrol. This prevents the goblin monster from being avoided, but also provides the opportunity to attack multiple times to gain more than 1 reputation point. This will be the active modifier until it is used, or until the next episode begins. When drawing the next modifier, it must be a valid modifier, based on the goals that have been achieved so far. For example, adventure cards that match the goals of the current quest will be placed to the side and no longer shuffled into the adventure deck, so some modifiers will no longer be usable, and the next modifier should be drawn. Next, we will place 1 reputation point face up and the other 2 face down in a row next to the hero. Reputation points are the most important resource in the game. They are earned by slaying monsters. The hero gains 1 point for each level of a defeated monster, up to a maximum of 3. Using actions to overcome or avoid an obstacle will be covered in more detail below. Sometimes, the player is trying to meet the success requirement of an obstacle to match a quest goal, but the hero does not have the required actions. In that case, 1 or more reputation points can be used as wild cards to meet the requirement. 1 reputation point can also be used to skip over an obstacle, as if all the avoid requirements were met, to save your current actions. 3 reputation points can be used to purchase a treasure, and 1 reputation point is lost as a penalty if an obstacle fails. Next, we will shuffle and place all 3 treasures face down until we decide to purchase one later on. Starting at level 2, a hero can purchase a treasure by turning over all 3 reputation points. Treasures can be used as actions and they will stay with the hero until they are stolen by the thief, or the hero reduces in level and cannot carry the treasure anymore. Because we are starting with episode 1, shuffle only the adventure cards that have an E1 on the face. These cards will make up the starting adventure deck. These are the types of adventure cards that will show up. Some cards allow you to draw more actions. Allies are placed with your actions until they are used. Unused allies can be kept across episodes. The thief will try to steal a treasure if one is available. Gossip will try to remove a reputation point. Some cards are specific to a quest with instructions on them. The final type of card is called an obstacle and can be a monster, an endurance, a trap, or a puzzle. Most obstacles have a success requirement and an avoid requirement. Finally, shuffle all the action cards and draw the first 7 to begin with. The 4 types of actions are attack, disarm trap, endurance, and solve puzzle. In our tutorial, 2 attack, 3 disarm trap, and 2 endurance were drawn. Actions are what you use to overcome obstacles and can be combined with treasures, saved obstacles, allies, modifier cards, and reputation wildcards. As actions are used, they are placed in the action discard pile. You can only draw new actions during the current episode if an adventure card allows you to. And you can only have a maximum of 10 actions plus allies at any given time. Any adventure card can be skipped over to save your actions by choosing to turn 1 reputation point face down. If you can match the success requirement with your actions, you will earn reputation points if it is a monster. An exception to this is when you use an existing reputation card as an attack wildcard. In that case, it cancels the new reputation, and the total reputation earned is now the monster level -1 for each wildcard. If the adventure card matches a goal for the current episode, it is placed with the quest card to keep track of your progress, and will stay there for the rest of the game unless the player chooses to shuffle it back into the deck as a cost for failing an episode. If the adventure card is an endurance, trap, or puzzle, and you did not use a wild card, you can save it with the hero up to a maximum value listed on the current hero level card. A saved obstacle value is equal to its episode number. Saved obstacles can be used to match the avoid requirement of another adventure card. If the avoid requirement is matched, that adventure card is placed in the adventure deck discard pile. If you cannot match the avoid or the success requirement, the adventure card fails and the player must turn 1 reputation point face down. If no reputation points are available, then the episode fails. From here, we are ready to draw our first adventure card. For this tutorial, I will only walk you through the first episode to give you a feel for how the game flows. Our goal is to slay 3 level 1 monsters. After we finish episode 1, we will end with some concluding remarks. The first adventure card to be drawn in our example is Trap Swinging Log. We have a disarm trap that can meet the success requirement. The adventure card is saved with the hero, since it was a trap and the success requirement was met without using a wild card, and the action card is moved to the discard pile. Our next adventure card is Endurance Steep Trail. We have an endurance that can meet the success requirement. The adventure card is moved to the discard pile because we already have the maximum saved obstacles for hero level 1, and the action card is moved to the discard pile. Our next adventure card is Puzzle Lost. Since we do not have the required actions to meet the success requirement, we will choose to use one saved obstacle and one disarm trap to meet the avoid requirement. The adventure card and the saved obstacle are moved to the adventure discard pile, and the action card is moved to the action discard pile. Our next adventure card is L1 Monster Large Wolf. We have an attack that can meet the success requirement. The adventure card is placed with the quest because it matches a goal for episode 1, and 1 reputation point is turned face up for defeating a level 1 monster. The action card is moved to the discard pile. We now need 2 more level 1 monsters to complete the episode. Our next adventure card is Food Supplies. This allows us to draw 2 new action cards. Our new actions are Endurance and Solve Puzzle. The adventure card is moved to the discard pile. Our next adventure card is L1 Monster Goblin. This card activates the modifier and converts the goblin into a goblin patrol. We have an attack that can meet the success requirement. Because we have 1 attack and we only have 1 more reputation before we are full, we will not attack the goblin more than once even though the modifier allows it. The adventure card is placed with the quest because it matches a goal for episode 1, and 1 reputation point is turned face up for defeating a level 1 monster. A new modifier card is drawn. The modifier is Spider Queen, which will convert the level 1 spider into a level 2 monster. The action card is moved to the discard pile. We now need 1 more level 1 monster to complete the episode. Our next adventure card is Puzzle Gather Information. Because this card does not relate to the current quest, and it says no actions required for the avoid requirement, it is moved to the discard pile. Our next adventure card is L1 Monster Spider. This card activates the modifier and converts the spider into a level 2 monster. We could spend 2 reputation as wild cards to meet the success, but because the spider is now level 2, it does not match an episode goal, so the loss of reputation would not be strategic. We could spend 3 other actions to meet the avoid, but because we don't have many cards to spare, we are going to choose to spend 1 reputation to skip over the adventure card. The adventure card is moved to the discard pile, and 1 reputation is turned over. A new modifier card is drawn. The modifier is Framed, which unfortunately limits the total reputation for this episode to 2 maximum. If we had 3 when this modifier was drawn, we would have to reduce by 1. And when we slay our final monster, we cannot gain another reputation beyond 2. This modifier will be in effect until the next episode begins. Our next adventure card is Ally Royal Guard. The ally is placed with the actions and will stay with the hero until it is used. Our next adventure card is Fresh Mushrooms. This allows us to draw 1 new action card. Our new action is Attack. The adventure card is moved to the discard pile. Our next adventure card is Endurance Steep Trail. We have an endurance that can meet the success requirement. The adventure card is saved with the hero, since it was an endurance and the success requirement was met without using a wild card, and the action card is moved to the discard pile. Our next adventure card is L1 Monster Skeleton. Since the ally will stay with hero into the next episode, we will use the attack action. The adventure card is placed with the quest because it matches a goal for episode 1, and the action card is moved to the discard pile. Unfortunately, because of the framed modifier, we cannot earn another reputation point from the slain monster. We have now completed all the goals for episode 1. To prepare for the next episode, we will follow the instructions on page 12 and 15 of the PDF rules, and outlined on the rule reference cards. We remove 1 face-down quest card to represent the passing of a day, then increase the hero to level 2. A new modifier is drawn and the current reputation cards are left face up. The earned goals stay with the quest cards, and the unused ally stays with the actions. The remaining E1 and E2 adventure cards are shuffled as the next adventure deck. The actions are reshuffled and a fresh hand of 7 minus the number of allies are drawn. In this case, we draw 6 new cards. We are now ready to start episode 2. And now it's time for some concluding remarks. But first, I see we have been rejoined by the hunter.
Good day to you, madam.
And good day to you, sir. Did you run off those dangerous monsters?
Indeed I did.
Now that you're here, will you share some concluding remarks with us?
It would be my good pleasure, madam. I see you made it through the first episode with 2 reputation points, which is pretty good on your first try. Now, if you had made it with 3, then episode 2 is a good time to purchase your first treasure, for you have a fresh new hand of actions, and you can take the risk of reducing your reputation to 0. Having a treasure will make the rest of the game easier, because not only can it be used to match a success requirement, but it also qualifies as any action if you need to avoid an obstacle. As you have already seen, reputation points are the most important resource, so use your attack and build them up whenever you can, even if slaying monsters is not the goal of your quest. Remember, your unused allies stay with you until they are used, even across the start of a new episode. If you happen to experience a failed episode from an adventure card failing with no reputation points available to turn over, you have a few options on how to proceed. If you have a treasure, you can discard it. Or if you have some previous goals set aside with the quest, you can select one to reshuffle back into the adventure deck, adding that goal as a requirement for the current episode. This option is called returning to town. If neither of those options are possible, then the only thing you can do is reduce your hero level by 1. Then, regardless of the option, a new modifier is drawn and the actions and adventures are reshuffled, except for other earned goals and unused allies. And you must try again to complete the current episode. Finally, check out the last few pages of the PDF manual available for download from the GameCrafter website for more tips on strategy and also for campaign rules if you want a longer and more epic game experience.
That is all great information.
You are most kind, madam.
Well, that wraps it up for this introduction tutorial of Hunters of the Kaladron Valley, 1st edition. Goodbye and happy hunting.